Scott, Kilo Delta 4, Echo Bravo Lima, and this is my 2017 Hamvention haul video. Okay, let's go over and show you a few things we got at this year's Hamvention 2017. First of all, I went over to one of the groups and they had these cans of WD-40. Now we all know we all need WD-40 all the time. And he had these cans, and they were two cans, and one is what you usually see, and this is a retro can of what it looked like, but same contents. And these are nice because they've got this extra nice spray bottle right here. Well, he wanted $3 a piece, and I said, well, that's great. I'll get I'll get one of those at $3. But then he's like, well, if you get it today, because it was raining at the time, he says 2 for $5. Well, 2 for $5 is pretty good. So I got two really nice cans of WD-40. The next thing I went to was the Arrl Booth. And every year they give a pin out that gives the year. And on my hat I've got now 6 years, the 6 years I've been out there. So I have these pins here. Actually I got one or two extra in case somebody in the club wants them. So I'll have those there. Now one of the things I really wanted to go out there was to get a desoldering. And this I'm going to show you is a Pace MBT desoldering. And this is actually a fairly high end. Now I talked to this one gentleman and he had these in pieces and said that these work and he's happy to work one up for me. So I went and looked at this and I said, okay, I will get this. And this was, I think I talked them down to about $50. And this is the base unit. As you can see, here is where the hose goes in for the vacuum. You can change the pressure. It also will heat up, obviously, the tip. And then the other thing I got here was the actual tips and the handle for it. Now, I bought one handle that he had told me about, and it was actually a brand new handle. And I went and grabbed it, and I looked at it, and I took it over to a friend of mine who's a tech, and he said, hey, the handle, if you look there, I don't know if I can get that showing here. There were two types of handles. One is called a thermopen, and the thermopen really doesn't heat up the tip here very much. It's more for blowing out air and being able to do that. So this is actually the desoldering tip, and he had these. So I actually had bought the other one by mistake, went back, he traded me up for this, and this is actually a really good one. I plugged in, one piece goes in here, like that. You plug that in, and then you plug in the whole, boy, not very good with the video today. There we go. And then you have the tip here, and that fits right in there like that. So between these two, this gentleman had this. I actually bought it, took it up to where I saw electrical outlet, plugged it in. Sure enough, it did work. There was pressure here. Now, one of the nice things about a Hamvention is so big is he had this, but we didn't have the actual tip on there. And also this unit here unplugs, pops out, and here is where the excess solder comes in. So I went over to another company, I'll give them a little bit of a shout out, called EAE Sales. And there I was able, for a very low amount of money, first of all, he looked it over and said, hey, I know the guy, he's very honest, you got a good deal here. And then I was able to buy extra of the units that suck in the solder. They were pretty cheap. And then also I bought a whole bunch of tips, different sizes and different lengths, so that I could suck up the solder. So that was one of the items I really wanted to go to. The next item I got, and I looked 2 days till I finally found it, is I have bought a signal tracer that I'm going to redo. It's an Allied Night, and yes, there'll be another video on that. But one of the things that it did not come with is the probe. And I finally found a probe, and this probe is in great shape. It looks like everything's there. I'm going to have to probably change the plugs on this, I believe. But because they use an amphenol connector on those plugs. In any event, the sensor here, I found this probe in great shape for $3. Now, even if this is not the right probe, because this is the peak-to-peak probe, I can take this probe apart and put in the right pieces to that. They also threw in a whole set of extra, these little cheap probes that I can use as well with that unit. So there was one of the things on my list there. Another place came around, and that uses what's called an amphenol connector that I'll probably change to a BNC. But I just found a couple of leads. These are already done up. Very easy. I'm going to have to probably resolder. Let's see if I can focus a little bit there. There we go. Not a great connection there, but easily enough, but all the parts are there. So that was mostly what I was looking for. The other thing was I wanted to get some kits. My soldering skills are not great. I found this little kit called a QRP blinker, and all the parts are in it, and it was, I think it was $4. There's a circuit board in there, and the guy said this is a great little kit to start with. I thought that would be fun to do. I wanted to look for capacitors. Now, buying capacitors at a Hamfest, you never know what you're going to get. But one of the things is I found this little box that had some LEDs in it, some capacitors, some resistors, and most importantly down here, something I was looking for is some heat sink compound. And I got this whole thing for $1 here. And what I really wanted was a heat sink comp, but I got a nice little unit here, a couple of posts and things like that for $1. Then the guy said, well, go ahead. Here's another bag of capacitors. I'll test these out. But for $1, he threw this in. Actually, he threw it in with this, so I got 2 of these for $1. And another place had a whole box of capacitors. And these aren't all ones I'll use, but these were all high-end capacitors, brand new. As you can see in there, and I think that was $9, and I think there's about 100 capacitors in here. Same place, another place had a bag, and I was like, well, what are those kits there? And one of these is a soldering course, and the other is an aircraft receiver. And I'm like bargaining with the guy. I think he wanted $20, and I said, well, I don't really want to spend that. So we bargained down to $10. And at $10, I got this. Now, when I went back and took this out, there are the parts mixed in for the 2 kits, and I'm going to assume all the parts are there look like it. And one of the kits was started on, but the other kit was brand new. There's a lot more parts here than should go in the kit, so I think my parts inventory is going to start looking pretty good there. So those are all the capacitors I got. If you ever go to Hamvention, you go by Yaesu. Yaesu gives everybody a free hat. They put a little hole in your ticket, and everybody got a free Yaesu hat. What's great about this year is they're almost always black. Not always wild on black hats, but this Yaesu hat is pretty good. Next thing I did want to look for was a 40-meter antenna. I decided that I'm going to just build one. I found this guy having the wire here, and this is a very high-end copper braid wire. You probably can't tell from there that it's copper, but it is. I think that's the right amount of links. If not, we'll figure something else out. It's even got a connector on one. This is brand new, never been used. I got both of these for $1. The final thing that when we were going out, a friend of mine had a Yaesu FT 7900 in his car, and I was going to buy one, and I actually thought about buying one new, and knew they were on sale for about $270. Well, we found one out in the flea market, and the guy wanted, originally you can probably see there, $205. We talked down, I got him down to $170, so roughly $100 off. He said it only was used a few times. It's got the bracket here. Of course, it's got the microphone. On the back, he's put Amphenol connectors, and he has the separation kit, which here's the cable for it right there. The separation kit just is that this whole head comes off. So you can put the unit underneath your seat, and then the head will go up on the dashboard or somewhere. And I have a hole, or I should say a compartment in my car that I believe this is going to fit. So I'll put a little Velcro, put that in there so that I'll actually be able to hide the whole thing when I'm not using it. So that will be a future video as I install this. I've checked it out, it works great. And yes, it didn't have the manual, but we all know those are online and you always lose the manual anyhow. The other thing I went and bought was the programming kit, the programming cable for it. This unit can do 1,000 different frequencies, so I can go in there and load up, say, all the frequencies from my house to Dayton and be able to hit all the repeaters, put the national simplex. I'll do another bank with all the local. It allows you to do NOAA weather. It's 2 meter and 440, and that's going to be a really nice thing. If you follow John from Arkansas's videos, you know that he and I always meet up at Hamvention. We have a good time together. And on Friday we went around. It was really hot, and there's one gentleman who sells a lot of antique radios, and we looked it over, and I saw a couple I was interested in, but they were really, I don't know if I should say that they were too expensive, but for what I wanted to play with, I didn't want to spend that much money. They were probably worth the amount he was asking for it, but that really wasn't what I was due for. And John was suggesting, hey, you need a plastic radio to kind of start with, but he made it very clear, unlike the Bakelite and the wooden, where you can repair and work on the cabinets, you know, plastic, if it's broken, walk away from it unless you got another one that's not broken. Well, on Saturday, he calls me up and says, come on over here, meet me there. And sure enough, he had gotten me a radio. This is an AM, FM clock with automatic frequency control. It's a Zenith, and it is beautiful. It is a little dirt on it. Well, we can fix that, but it has all the parts are there, all the knobs are there. There's no cracks on it, and it is a tube radio. And I've never worked on FM before, so we're gonna have some fun with that. That will be a future video, excuse me. And then finally, if you follow Hamvention at all, there was a lot of mud this year. So one of the things I did bring back, and probably everybody did, give a shot there, is muddy boots. So once these dry, I'll clean those up. But everybody brought back a little bit of Xenia with it. So that's all for now. We've got some future videos coming up, but I hope you all have a good day, and we'll hopefully see you soon. 73 from Scott.